Hey, welcome back to Business 101, Introduction to Business. And in this series of lectures, we begin to look at Chapter 10 of the text, and we deal with the all-important topic of marketing. And as you can see here, our very first lecture, what is marketing? Well, in today's parlance, of course, you might be forgiven if you thought this was marketing, because this is perhaps what we're seeing the most as we occasionally make our way out to go get our essential groceries and our supplies, if you're still going out to the grocery store rather than having them delivered. But of course, this really isn't what we're talking about when we talk about marketing in business. Marketing in business, we're perhaps talking about the reason why Americans, on average, will pay more, perhaps even 37 cents per pound more, for the orange on the left rather than the orange on the right. Now, the only difference between the orange on the left and the orange on the right is the little sticker with those 7 letters, Sunkist. Let's be honest. If you're confronted with 2 choices in the grocery store, you were sent to buy navel oranges, and you see one bin full of unlabeled oranges and another bin full of oranges all labeled Sunkist, well, if you're the average American consumer, you trust the Sunkist brand more and will pay more for the Sunkist orange than the unlabeled orange. But here's the deal. I think rationally, you and I both know, it's quite possible, in fact, probable, that both the Sunkist orange and the non-Sunkist orange grew on the same tree, may be exactly as sweet and juicy and delicious. The only difference is one is labeled and branded. This is the triumph of marketing, to create and communicate value even in undifferentiated products. We'll talk more about that. What else is marketing about? Marketing is why we may have a very strong preference to purchase one of these vehicles and not to purchase the other. What are these 2 vehicles? Well, of course, the vehicle on the right, the esteemed Ford F-250 pickup truck. It's larger than an F-150, large, I might say masculine, I might say comes with a gun rack in the back and a Labrador Retriever in the bed, maybe as an upgrade. But it's an entire thing to own a Ford pickup truck. The vehicle on the right, of course, is a Toyota Prius. Now, you recognize these 2 vehicles probably, and you recognize the bundle of communicated values that seem to be associated with each, right? The Prius is a hybrid vehicle, gets far better gas mileage, is socially responsible, and the Ford pickup, well, that's for people who need to get some stuff done. This too is the triumph of marketing, to be able to not only establish branded value, but to communicate that durably to the target audience, so that just by looking at those 2 photos, we already have a sense of the bundle of functions, features, and benefits that each one of these choices delivers to us. What then is marketing? Well, you can see here from this slide. Marketing is an organizational function and a set of processes for creating, communicating, and delivering value to customers, and for managing customer relationships in ways that benefit the organization and its stakeholders. We are acquainted with marketing because we're confronted with marketing every single day. We know very well the function of marketing known as advertising and promotions, and the kinds of things that we see wherever we turn, whether it's a television commercial, a radio advertisement, a billboard, or a pop-up ad on social media. And all of this is about delivering value. Value, as you can see here, defined as relative comparison of a product's benefits versus its costs. The textbook offers this little tiny little equation here, value equals benefits divided by costs. Essentially what you need to know here is that what we're talking about is comparing one to the other. And we've talked about this, haven't we? We've talked about this in a previous class, the difference between sales price and cost, which of course that represents what? Profit. And then perceived benefits to the consumer has to exceed the purchase price. Otherwise, quite frankly, we're not really compelled or incented or tempted to purchase at the given price. But we've talked about all of that in previous lectures. What we can say there then is a company may deliver value in several different ways. Here's some examples. A company may deliver value by developing an entirely new product that performs better than existing products in the marketplace. Or a company may deliver value by keeping the store open longer hours during a busy season. That too is value. Or a company may deliver value by offering price reductions, whether those are permanent or temporary. And a company, finally, on this slide, may deliver value by offering information that explains how a product can be used in new ways. Now, these are all different ways that we can deliver value to users and consumers. And so what I want to do is get you to expand your thinking about value beyond what perhaps we previously talked about in this class. All of these are unique and very valuable ways that a company can deliver value. Now, we've sort of talked about this in a previous slide, right? The whole concept of utility, that the utility of a product or service is the ability to satisfy a want or need. And we previously talked about three forms of utility. In fact, it was a quiz question, wasn't it? Right? That the three forms of utility that chapter talked about was form utility. In other words, production, at the time we talked about, production or operations transforming inputs into a new form which provided a solution to a particular want or need. But utility also takes the form of time utility, for instance, being able to watch a movie at different show times, as well as place utility, right? So that streaming video can be watched on a variety of devices in a variety of different places of your choosing. But there is also the topic of possession utility, which is introduced in this chapter on marketing and is new for us. Possession utility is creating possession utility by transferring product ownership to customers by setting selling prices, setting terms for customer credit payments if needed, and providing ownership documents. And so if you've ever purchased a car at a car dealership, right, taking possession, taking title, taking ownership of that product is possession utility. Notice there that for most of us here in the United States, very few of us buy a new car cash. We normally set up financing. So in other words, we're delivered possession utility of the vehicle before we've actually paid the entire purchase price. That is a form of value and utility. What types of goods, services, and ideas does marketing deal with? Well, you can see here, it deals with consumer goods, physical products purchased by consumers for personal use, industrial goods, physical products purchased by companies to produce other products, and also services, products having non-physical features such as information, expertise, or an activity that can be purchased. All of these are goods, services, and ideas that marketing delivers through delivering value. Now, that generally answers the question, what is marketing? But I want to give you an example. I want to leave you with an example from the widely acclaimed television series Mad Men on how value can be delivered. This is then just a visual example, an illustration, a fun little video clip for us to wrap our thinking around as we consider value. Because sometimes value is taking the exact same product or exact same service and simply choosing to frame the argument or frame the story in a particular way that delivers value.
Bremen and Lynn Taylor. No Eastmans today, unfortunately. They're all back in lab.
It's a wonderful facility, but they don't take vacations.
What do they show? Slides of them working?
So, have you figured out a way to work the wheel into it?
We know it's hard because wheels aren't really seen as exciting technology, even though they are the original.
Well, technology is a glittering lure. But there's the rare occasion when the public can be engaged on a level beyond flash, if they have a sentimental bond with the product. My first job, I was in-house at a fur company with this old pro copywriter, Greek, named Teddy. And Teddy told me the most important idea in advertising is new. Creates an itch. You simply put your product in there as a kind of calamine lotion. But he also talked about a deeper bond with the product. Nostalgia. It's delicate, but potent. Sweetheart. Teddy told me that in Greek, nostalgia literally means the pain from an old wound. It's a twinge in your heart, far more powerful than memory alone. This device isn't a spaceship. It's a time machine. It goes backwards and forwards. It takes us to a place where we ache to go again. It's not called the wheel. It's called the carousel. It lets us travel the way a child travels. Round and around, and back home again. To a place where we know we are loved.
Good luck at your next meeting.
Well, thank you for paying attention, and hope you got something out of that as we begin our discussion on marketing. Take care. See you in the next lecture.